are here today to announce a campaign kickoff to stop the sweeps. Our first speaker is the person who actually brought us together, Jeff Litico, and I'm going to kick it over to him.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. There's a reason why I don't too often get invited to speak at events, and some of you are about to learn why that is. Some of what I say is going to seem a little bit off topic, but it's not really off topic. It's more on topic than you might realize. And there are things that I'm going to ask you to reflect about while I'm talking or when you go home. And I think if you do that, you'll find that you're in agreement with me and the other people that are concerned about these sweeps. For starters, this nation is founded on slavery and genocide. Things cannot go well. Probably not going to go well. Certainly this nation as a whole is not, I'm no longer predictive. Don't pretend like I have a crystal ball, given what happened in 2016. But it feels to me like people are feeling more and more backed into a corner. The analysis of the 2016 election and ongoing is that people that were working, had good manufacturing jobs, etc., felt pushed into a corner by the economic realities. And now I think other people, let's call them progressives or liberals or whatever, I think they're feeling pushed into a corner by the constant, continuing, large percentage of people that support a Donald Trump. So it doesn't look good for this nation. Maybe, though, Portland can go a different route. Now, how do we go a different route? Well, here's a reality that I believe in, but I don't practice. And I don't think we're going to. But if we did, if we practiced unconditional love, every problem, including the problem of sweeps, would go away. I think we can forget about that because I don't feel. You'll probably notice that there's a lot of hatefulness in the tone of my voice. So I'm not exactly a good model for practicing unconditional love. But if we reflect on basic values, traditional values that this country has had over a period of time, if we reflect on those and begin to incorporate them both in our personal lives and in our public lives, things have a chance of changing. We have the ability to come together as a community and find something akin to consensus that meets the needs, meets the demands, meets the concerns of all parties involved. It's not just the poor against the rich or the rich and their concerns against the poor. We have to do it as a community. It's housed and houseless people together, or it's not going to go well. So now just let me list some of the things. Let me start with the public values. Limited government. That government which governs least governs best. Another is that we have the inalienable right of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Personal values include things like judge not lest ye be judged, and that which you do to the least of your brethren, you do to the essence of human spirit. If we don't think, now I'm not going to do a lot of linkage of those types of values to what I'm talking about. I just want you to reflect on those things, but here's a key thing for you. Reflect on where we would be if we did not adhere to those types of values. We would be in a lot of trouble if we did not have equal treatment under law, if we did not have a limited government and instead an unlimited one. There would be big problems. Now we can go a different route, and Portland can be like a shining city on a hill. And we get to that point by linking our values with each other. Now, I'm not going to point the finger and say the police are wrong or the companies are wrong today. And I don't think that they should point the finger and always say that all the homeless are wrong. I think the biggest problem that homeless face is not the cold, is not the lack of food, is not the sweets. Instead, it's a public relations problem. It's the problem that has the bulk of society judging them every day, day in and day out. And until it And that is why the sweeps are such a problem. Because when the people ride down the road or walk down the road and they see police dismantling a camp and all this stuff all strewn all over the place, they say to themselves, well, there's another one of those homeless people in their dirty, wrecked up camps. Well, think about what their houses would look like if somebody came through and tore it all apart and, tossed things that they decided was garbage into a truck. It wouldn't look all that great. And that attitude that says, oh, all the homeless are just worthless. Well, you keep doing that to people, and eventually they're not going to be all that cooperative. They're not going to want to pick up after themselves. And I'm here to tell you that the sweeps waste your time, my time, so badly. I'll give you an example. For starters, you're constantly under stress thinking, as I approach my house, my home, my hooch, I'm always wondering, is it still there? And that's a waste of my mind time. And then if it's not there, or if there's a posting, then I have to move. I have to pack everything up. And if I don't get it all packed up, then they take things. And at least, now there is a procedure where you can get your things back, but it takes a period of time to schedule that stuff. I have to get people lined up to help me transport it, because I sure can't transport it. And I'm lucky to be able to do that. But all of that takes time. So just think about toiletries. This is one example. That period of time where I don't have toiletries, I either suffer from the lack of them, or I go out and buy some, which I can still afford. But that takes time, making the list, going to the store, buying the things, bringing them back. And when everything gets all either packed up, and then if you look for just one thing that's out of place, then it's all jumbled up. And even if you don't have attention deficit disorder, you're going to get it. And again, it wastes your time. And a person like me, we all don't, none of us know how much time we have left. But some of us are pretty certain that we don't have a heck of a lot of time left. So when they start wasting my time, when I'm unable to week after week, month after month, to work on my art, it kind of pisses me off. So I can understand why some people leave messes behind, because I feel like burning things down. So sweets are a problem in that they give the public the perception that all homeless people are worthless. Now, there are some rich people who are worthless, but there are some who are not worthless. There are some middle class. Every category of people has its worthless folks. Or, I don't want to say worthless folks, but folks that are challenged within the society and the culture. And that is true also amongst homeless people. But this broad brushstroke, even books that I like, novels, for example, they almost invariably have a paragraph that paints the homeless in a one, oh, we got out of the city and we're able to avoid the crime, the graffiti, and the homeless. They're constantly putting that onus on homeless people. And it's got to stop. Our leaders need to exercise leadership that communicates to the general public that all sectors of our community are worthwhile, of value. And then we can begin to bridge the problems. I don't feel as though there are going to be instances where somebody's got a camp and maybe they've over and over again failed to cooperate, trashed it out, caused disorderly conduct, whatever, that you would want to have a sweep. So I'm not saying that all sweeps should end. That's my personal opinion. But for the time being, we could go ahead and put a moratorium on it, especially during the winter. And then we have the Ninth Circuit Court, which says, and the Supreme Court refused to hear this case out of Boise. And in that case, the Ninth Circuit said that if there are not shelter spaces available, then it is a violation of cruel and unusual punishment to enforce laws against sleeping, camping, etc. But you know what? That's too narrow, I think. I'm not a lawyer, but I can think of lots of different parts of the Constitution or things that seem like a right that are violated by those sweeps. Additionally, the whole bit about shelters going to solve the problem. No, they're not. Those shelters are often disgusting. People don't want to go into the shelters for any number of reasons. I have reasons for not wanting to go into the shelters, and I'm sure other people do as well. And it does not, everybody's telling me to hurry up. Okay, so I will. Listen, the shelters do not solve the problem. Now remember, when they start building shelters and affordable housing, then they say everybody's going to come to Portland. So that approach doesn't work because you increase the number of people that it's just like building a road. They will come. And you're still also going to have people that their family breaks up until they go living on the streets. Youth seem to be in constant rebellion against their parents. And one of the things they do is go homeless for a period of time. People that have been involved with the military and don't want to be in barrack-style places. So the shelters is not going to solve the problem either. And there could be incentives for it's such a long and complex issue. All of these time limits suck. We need to be, including inside this building, we need to be able to sit down with clear and conscious thought. It's not rocket science. Rocket science requires math. Solving these problems just requires reflection, caring, and love. And I think we can do that.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I just want to thank Andrew for being here to do ASL interpretation. If we can make sure, press, that when you are filming our speakers, you are also getting the interpreter in that frame for the public. Thank you so much. So we are here today to announce a campaign kickoff to stop the sweeps. Sweeps are incredibly detrimental to our communities, and not just to people who live outside. Although, for people who live outside, they can be deadly. And we have a number of people here to tell us about their personal experiences.
Hello. Sweeps kill. Shelter exclusions kill too. Some authorities will say that sweeps are helpful and they help people get into shelters. Yeah. Where they supposedly can get help. But I think shelters are warehouses, and I don't feel like the future I want for myself will come from staying in a shelter or unsustainable housing programs. Sweeping people into shelters doesn't help. There aren't enough spaces to begin with, and shelters have their own problems. You're living under constant chaos, no choice of who you sleep next to. Sometimes people you don't want to sleep next to. Waking up and going to sleep are times when people want to relax, not crowded or yelled at by staff. Outside we can choose who we're sleeping near. We can sleep in the forest and we have more space. At night they scream things like bed check in an obnoxious manner. Some staff at shelters are good, but many have a toxic relationship with the people in the shelter. The employees constantly monitor you. Some shelter employees spend more time policing or parenting than supporting or helping. The rules are inconsistent. What's allowed depends on how well they like you that day, and they can be extremely patronizing and condescending. Some are really cool, and a handful can relate to my experiences. The employees can be really helpful and I appreciate them, but the majority are just people doing a job. There are a few bullies on staff looking for someone to harass. But people are also ignored sometimes. Bad things happen. A friend had a seizure and was on the floor of a bathroom for approximately 4 hours during the night and not helped by the graveyard employees. In the morning, no one has enough time to use the bathroom without being bothered by staff. Personal property isn't respected. Sometimes shelter staff goes through people's belongings, and people who have things in their bags, such as a closed beer can, are excluded, even if they didn't touch it. You can get excluded for breaking policies, even if it caused no harm to the shelter or community. They're supposed to hold your things for 5 days. That doesn't always happen. People come back and their stuff is gone, or they're giving someone else's belongings. I support our demand of ending sweeps, stopping property seizures, and setting up listening sessions to hear what people who are being swept want and need. Everyone has a different dream and need. What I want is to help start a tiny house village. This campaign to stop sweeps is just the beginning for me. I look forward to a sustainable future where I am free from harm and policing so that I can carry out my intentions to start this tiny house community.
Thank you, Christine. All right, so next we're going to hear from Alexa Simpson, and she's done a lot of research about the impact of sweeps on her community, and I'm going to pass the mic to her.
Yes, hello. My name is Alexa Simpson, and I'm currently active fighting for social justice and environmental justice by means of grassroots organizing. I'm an unhoused resident, and I see and experience firsthand abuse of power, extreme bias, discrimination, and social service inadequacies in my community. Having been homeless for nearly 3 years, I have been a victim of and witnessed injustice in many forms. One of the most alarming injustices currently plagues me and all unhoused residents not only residing in Portland, Oregon, but across the nation. With the development of business improvement districts, BIDs, also known as enhanced service districts, ESDs locally, we have seen a militarized approach to address the unhoused population, an approach that has also criminalized the unhoused population. Our public spaces and thoroughfares have been privatized without public comment or vote. Our city has responded to unsanctioned camping through increased security and through the forced disbandment of encampments, the forced removal of houseless individuals from an area, and the destruction of our property. They call these actions sweeps. I have witnessed the evolution of this forced disbandment of encampments known as sweeps. The impact they have upon our community is severe, devastating, and deadly. This action is traumatizing, puts us in vulnerable situations, and oftentimes results in fines or fees. Coupled with loss of identification, our cell phones, food that's been purchased with SNAP cards, makes it all the more difficult to maintain employment and access stable housing. Through what I deem gross negligence, many have died as a result of exposure after destruction of their survival gear. This continued trauma has caused many to lose sight of who they trust, and as a result, they end up resenting the government. Being a victim of these acts, seeing the growing despair and incline of mental health concerns, I sought to find a solution. Through research, I found the Western Regional Advocacy Project, WRAP, Oregon Hub Office as Sisters of the Road Cafe. I quickly became a member of the Roadie Social Justice Group, where we embody philosophies of nonviolence, gentle personalism, and a community organizing model. I further engaged with WRAP, and collectively we created an anti-sweeps campaign. Here today, December 19th, 2019, I stand in front of you proud to say our campaign is kicking off. And in 2 days, on December 21st, 2019, we will be participating in a vigil in the East Bank Esplanade at 3 p.m. honoring houseless community members that have passed. There are a few topics I would like to briefly address to educate and enlighten. Shelters. Oftentimes these shelters raise health, safety, and sanitation concerns. Bed bugs, lice, respiratory, fungal, and staph infections are commonplace. For elders and the immunosuppressed, these infections are especially dangerous. There is not adequate or balanced meals served, if served at all. No storage of personal food products is permitted. Some individuals must supplement with protein powders and other nutritional products due to a choice in diet and lifestyle such as a vegan. Without the ability to store these products, their health suffers. Some of these lifestyle choices are religious or ceremonial in nature. This can be very oppressive and spiritually damaging, which further contributes to trauma and the steady incline of unaddressed mental health disorders. The shelter system has been monopolized. There is one primary provider that has grown to such a size that there are major oversights. When these problems and grievances are brought to their attention, it takes 30 to 60 days for resolution, and many times there's no follow-up. I am personally an individual that is having to seek legal counsel to address a concern and complaint of discrimination and negligence due to the lack of response from this provider to resolve these issues. Running into trouble resulting in an exclusion at one shelter or service center bans you from all services until resolution has been met. Many times these situations are not examined or assessed properly on site, and the victim winds up as the excluded troublemaker. I have personally seen individuals with limited capacities and varying degrees of mental disabilities be exited for actions that should have been assessed and addressed by a mental health care provider. I do not feel there's enough trauma-informed employees or access to mental health care professionals at these facilities. Currently, the solution is police contact and forced removal, placing one back on the streets. Vigilante groups and hate crimes. I have been a victim to vigilante group targeted attacks such as mace tents and attempted arson attacks, sex and hate crimes. I was told by social service groups and the district attorney's office that there was no protection or resources they could offer, which left me exposed and susceptible to future attacks. Cleanup crew members and police officers that patrol the same districts develop personal relationships with unhoused residents that are oftentimes negative and predatory. The ecological impact. Campers are forced to rely upon alternative methods of heat source for cooking and survival. This includes campfires and fossil fuels to run generators. Both of these methods contribute to environmental toxicity levels and global warming. Without access to sustainable resources, the mass continues to pollute our environment for survival. There's a lack of educational material that advises individuals on safety standards or of the potential health risk factors and environmental impact when burning materials such as chemically treated wood. Many do not even know how to identify wood that may be treated. Cleanup crews do not identify and separate materials for proper recycling when tossing items they deem rubbish. This means that caustic chemicals, acidic batteries, and plastics make their way into our landfills, into our soil, and eventually our waterways, polluting and poisoning. Recyclable and precious metals sit and rust instead of being recycled and repurposed. I once used to be proud of the progressive and green culture Portland possessed. Now I feel ashamed to know its most disadvantaged communities are poisoned by the city's most beautiful asset, known as the Willamette River, through fishing and prolonged exposure to toxic soils. I'm ashamed communities in my city pay for militarized patrol companies that take what little worldly possessions the disadvantaged have. I'm sorrowful Mother Earth then suffers as she continues to be exposed to pollutants at the rate of $5 million tax dollars a year. I want you to take a moment and imagine what $5 million a year could accomplish if applied alternatively. How much affordable housing could be developed? How many more expanded and sustainable resources could we see implemented? How many community-based independent projects could we invest in and support, such as Hygiene Access for All or the Compassionate Change District? Projects like these address the inadequacies that afflict us with creative and dignified solutions. Sweeps are a failed, faulty, erroneous, unsustainable, and band-aid approach to a systemic issue. Without solutions or alternatives, this cyclical method will do nothing more than result in greater destruction and devastation. Walking through this revolving door makes one feel more like a commodity than a citizen. Thank you.